Now, what rules do you give your students when they're deciding whether or not to include an extra letter of recommendation? When would you recommend they do that, and when would you recommend that they not do that?
Great question. So there's an old expression in admissions, the thicker the file, the quicker the denial. So you want to be careful. I know that sounds horrible, but you got to remember many of these schools are getting 50, 60, even 70,000 applications a year. I think Northeastern was over 90,000. NYU was over 100,000. They're not getting tons of time to read this. And when they say we want 2 and someone sends them 5, they're kind of questioning like, can you not follow directions? And also, what are you doing to us? I've got a long day. Even if they're being super professional, it's like, I don't want to deal with this. So it's a fine line, and it may depend a little bit on the school. And that's where talking to a guidance counselor or working with someone like me can be helpful in making that choice. But what I will usually recommend to juniors actually is that they pick 3 teachers. And because some schools are going to apply to won't care if there's that humanities and math split, but some will. And so you want to have 3 teachers, 2 on one side of that intellectual aisle and 1 on the other, so that you could do 1 of each, or you could just do 2 of each if you're a better science and math person. And then if some schools give you the option of 1 additional, then you can do that 3rd additional one to that school. But I'm really reluctant to let students do a 4th or a 5th. The exception would be, if we mentioned earlier, summer programming, where they get mentored by someone. If you've had a really unique mentorship situation with someone outside of your high school environment, maybe you did get to do a cool research program with a faculty member somewhere else. Maybe it was an employer at a summer job. Maybe it was an internship that you got to do. That's a great person to do, and no college will be upset about that. But I don't know that I've ever allowed us, or at least maybe they did it without listening to me, but I've never endorsed a student doing more than those 4 plus the guidance counselor, because now we're at 5 letters. The other reason, thinking ahead a little bit, to save 1 in the background if you can, is it really and truly is more is not better. But if you apply early decision to a school, many times good students will still get in, but not the first time. So what I'm trying to say is they get deferred into the regular decision pool. They've applied in November, they find out in December, we're not ready to admit you, but we're going to consider you again in the regular decision pool. I always want my students in January to send an update. And that update at that point, it would be appropriate to add an additional letter at that point. So, some families are concerned, well, shouldn't we throw everything we have at it right at once? Not all at once, because you don't want to have that file be too thick at first. But if you are in that situation where you get an opportunity to send more info later in the year, it's nice to have maybe that 4th one ready to, or 5th one ready to go then.